All right, so have you ever tried to organize a surprise party? It's fun right up until you have to juggle everyone's RSVPs and dietary needs. And then on top of that, you got to make sure the guest of honor doesn't find out.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So now swap the balloons and confetti for custody schedules, visitation rights, legal documents. You get what I mean. It gives you a sense of what so many parents are dealing with every day.
Yeah, and that's what we're diving into today. We're looking at Custody Buddy, an AI tool based on ChatGPT. It's supposed to make these custody situations less chaotic, less stressful. Imagine this. You're already stressed out, trying to remember everything about a missed visit or some broken agreement. Custody Buddy is like this assistant that swoops in and helps you keep track of all of it. It's interesting how Custody Buddy actually approaches the problem. Like, it's not trying to be your lawyer. It's more like having an assistant who's really organized, like 24/7.
Oh, totally. Yeah. It's like a sidekick who's always got your back and never forgets a single detail. And the coolest part, it's totally free. It's built right into ChatGPT, so you don't need to download a separate app. So let's say your ex cancels a visit last minute and they don't even tell you why. Again.
Ugh, the worst.
Right. So you just tell Custody Buddy what happened. You don't even need to use legal terms or anything.
And that's where the AI comes in. Custody Buddy takes that situation and puts it into a category. Like, was it just a misunderstanding or did they break a court order? Custody Buddy sorts it all out.
It's like your own legal team is already prepping everything. But wait, it gets even better. So Custody Buddy doesn't just categorize everything. It also figures out how serious each incident is. Because a missed visit because someone got sick, that's totally different from someone just ignoring the custody schedule.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So Custody Buddy helps you see those little details, which could be a big deal if it goes to court.
Definitely. Anyone who's dealt with legal stuff knows how important it is to have everything organized.
Yeah.
You don't want to rely on your memory, especially when things are so intense.
Totally. And speaking of organization, get this. Custody Buddy takes what you told it and writes up this neutral summary of what happened, like something you could give to a lawyer. Our source material had this great example. Someone wrote in, my ex just totally bailed on picking up the kids. No explanation, no nothing. That's just how we talk every day, right?
Totally.
So here's what Custody Buddy turned it into. On October 2nd, 2024, the other parent failed to appear for a scheduled custody exchange. No prior notice was given, and no explanation was provided for the absence. This incident resulted in a missed visitation opportunity for the other parent and may have caused emotional distress for the children involved.
Wow.
Right.
So you basically go from a frustrated text to something that sounds way more official just by using this tool. That's amazing.
Yeah, and on top of all that, Custody Buddy keeps everything organized, in a timeline. Dates, times, what happened, how serious it was. It's like having a super detailed record right there.
Wow. It's like that saying, what is it? The faintest ink is more reliable than the strongest memory. So Custody Buddy knows that's true.
Totally. But now I'm wondering, does having a tool like this actually change things when it comes to custody battles?
That's a great question. It makes you think.
Yeah.
And that's something we'll get into right after this.
So we've seen how Custody Buddy can be super helpful for keeping track of everything and organizing all the details. But it makes you wonder, does having this kind of tool actually make things fairer when it comes to custody battles?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. Because we know that who has a lawyer and what kind of resources they have, that can really affect how these cases turn out.
Exactly. Not everyone can just have a lawyer on call 24/7.
And that's why a tool like Custody Buddy could be a game changer. Imagine being a parent who just feels totally overwhelmed and like they're losing control. Custody Buddy gives them a way to take charge because they can keep a clear and objective record of what's happening.
It's like having one of those evidence lockers they have on those crime shows, but for custody issues.
Exactly. Instead of just trying to remember everything or explain their side of things in a clear way, they have this tool to help them present the facts.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But let's be real here for a sec. No matter how organized someone is, Custody Buddy can't replace actual legal advice, right?
Right, exactly. Custody Buddy is a tool. It's not a lawyer. The law is really complicated, and nothing can replace the knowledge and help of an actual legal professional.
Okay, so if I'm getting this right, Custody Buddy is more about getting you ready to talk to your lawyer so you can have a better and more productive conversation with them.
Exactly. Think of it like building something. Custody Buddy helps you gather the materials and organize them, and then your lawyer helps you actually build the best case possible.
So it's like Custody Buddy helps you show up prepared with all your ducks in a row.
Precisely. You're not just relying on what you think you remember or vague stories. You have a timeline and specific examples, and that can make a huge difference.
So in a way, it makes sure everyone's looking at the same facts.
Right. And because it's a neutral and factual record, it might even help calm things down a bit. There's often a lot of tension and strong emotions in these situations.
Interesting. So instead of getting stuck in those he said, she said arguments, you have this objective record that everyone can look at.
Exactly. And that kind of clarity is really valuable, not just for the legal side of things, but also for everyone's emotional well-being, especially the children's.
Because in the end, that's what really matters. And it makes me think maybe having this kind of neutral record could even help people work things out without going to court.
That's a great point. If both people feel like they're being heard and that their worries are being taken seriously, it might make it easier for them to talk and find a compromise.
Now, that would be amazing. So we've talked about how Custody Buddy could be really helpful, but there's always two sides to every coin, right? So what are some potential downsides of using AI like this?
That's a really important question, and one we should always ask about any new tech, especially when it comes to something as sensitive as family law.
So we've been talking about Custody Buddy as this really helpful tool, but let's be real. Are there any downsides to bringing AI into something as personal and emotional as custody battles?
Right. That's something we have to think about with any new technology, especially when it has to do with family and the law.
It's like those sci-fi movies where robots start making all the decisions for us. We're not quite there yet, but
Uh-huh. Luckily not. And that's important to remember. Custody Buddy isn't making any decisions. It's just organizing information and giving you a way to see it all.
okay, that makes me feel a little better. But I'm still wondering, is there a chance that people might start relying too much on a tool like this?
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's easy to imagine someone, in the middle of all the stress and emotion, just depending too much on what Custody Buddy says, and maybe not giving their lawyer all the details they need.
So it goes back to that idea of balance. Custody Buddy is there to help you get organized, but it's not the one making the decisions.
Exactly. You can't forget about the human side of things, like having a lawyer who gets you and understands what your family's going through. Custody Buddy can't do that.
Which leads to my next question. Would you actually use this?
Well, that's a tough one. I mean, it's a personal choice, right? But I can definitely see how for some people, being able to keep track of everything, organize it, and then show it to someone in such a clear and factual way, that could be really powerful.
Especially in situations where one person feels like they're not being heard or that their concerns aren't being taken seriously.
Right. Custody Buddy could be a way to make sure everyone's voice is heard. And maybe that leads to things being fairer for everyone involved.
It's almost like Custody Buddy levels the playing field emotionally. Not by getting rid of emotions, but by giving people a neutral space to look at the facts.
I like that. That's a great way to put it. And hopefully when things are clearer, families can really focus on what matters most, the kids.
This whole conversation about Custody Buddy has been really interesting. I almost feel like we're seeing the beginning of how technology could change families and the legal system.
Yeah, it definitely makes you think. There's still so many questions, but it's clear that we need to keep talking about this, especially as AI becomes a bigger part of our lives.
Well said. And that brings us to our final thought for you all today. If you were in a situation like this, do you think Custody Buddy would be helpful or more trouble than it's worth? And what does the fact that this tool even exists, what does that tell us about how technology is changing the way we handle our biggest personal challenges? Just something to think about. Until next time, keep those wheels turning. This has been The Deep Dive, signing off.